Molly, I think we're good to go.
Okay. Well, hello, folks, and welcome. Well, we're just waiting another minute to see if anyone else is going to show for this. Please go ahead and type your name and where you're joining us from today in your chat box. And for anyone that would like to utilize our closed captioning, just click on the link in the chat. We'll have Kim put one of those in there. There's another link that you could type out here, but we'll throw a link into the chat box for you. So my name is Molly McFawn. I'm the 4-H educator for Orange and Washington counties. And Kimberly Griffin, my coworker, is here with us as well. She's the 4-H educator for Bennington and Rutland counties, and she'll be doing our technical support today. Now that we're all here, I'd like to have us take a moment just to make sure that your names are all updated with the name that you'd like to be called today. And if you feel comfortable, please share the pronouns that you'd like to use today. This is not a requirement, but if you'd like, you can go to your picture in participants, you hover over it, and there's either a 3-dot menu or a little arrow that says more. From there, you can click on it to change your name and update your pronouns if you'd like to. While we're together in this space today, we have a social code that I'd like to go over with you. This is just so that we all have the same set of ground rules when we're going into it. Guests will be muted unless they're talking. We're going to share thoughts and ask questions either via chat or if you raise your hand. You can mark raise your hand, or if you'd like to just raise your hand in your picture, that's fine. We're calling you to speak. Please be courteous and respectful, and make sure that you don't create any distractions in the background. When possible, please keep your video on, because we're a small group today. It'll be nice to be able to see each other and definitely stay engaged and participate fully. You're all learning today about informational interviewing, so please ask questions. This isn't like an interview where you're trying to get a job. This is the opposite. In this, we have an opportunity for you to speak to and question a professional in a field that you're interested in learning more about, and to see if it's a good fit for you. All right, since we have that housekeeping sorted out, I'd like to welcome today's guest, Patrick Reina. Patrick coordinates and supervises all of the aspects of a production, from the creative to the administrative. He focuses on the creative and storytelling aspect of the show, and then leads the charge in implementing that. He gets to be in on all the fun of planning and executing a production, but he also deals with any problems during the production. He's also responsible for keeping everything within the budget. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here so we can see each other. And folks, if you feel comfortable being on camera, that'd be great so we can see your faces, or if you're raising hands. If not, that's okay too. So hello, Patrick. Thanks for being here with us today.
Hi, good to be here.
Excellent. One thing that we went through, we went ahead and sent some questions to everyone out in the audience to see if they wanted to ask questions. If they weren't able to come up with their own, they could have a thought about, using one of mine if that's what they wanted as well.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it looks like we have Troy, and we also have Dylan here with us today, as well as Sarah. Thank you all for coming. So I think what we can do, either Troy or Dylan, would either of you feel comfortable? Do you want to type a question into the chat box? Do you want to go ahead and ask one?
I got all the answers, so fire away.
Well, what we can start out with, if you'd like, I can start out reading a question, and then maybe Troy and Dylan might feel more confident asking a question once they see how easy it is.
Yeah.
So Patrick.
Molly, sorry, one second. I believe that it's Kaylin from Troy.
Oh, Kaylin from Troy. Sorry, I misunderstood. Thanks, Kaylin.
And Molly, it looks like Dylan just asked a question. What does a workday look for you?
Perfect.
Sweet.
Patrick.
Yeah. So, so my workday starts pretty early at about 7 a.m. And, but it's fun because I get to go to a giant soundstage where they film, and that's where our offices are as well. And when we are in pre-production, we are planning the episodes and the creative and learning about the cast and what stories we want to tell from the cast. I work in unscripted television, so just like the title, it is not scripted. So we get the pleasure of actually meeting and learning real people, and then we kind of craft, okay, what stories do we want to tell on the show that I'm working on, whether it's a cooking show like MasterChef, or it could be Shark Tank, where they come and they pitch their ideas, or it could be you know, a dance. So you think you could dance, and there are a bunch of dancers. Everyone has a story, and my specific job is to focus on telling that story and making the TV show around the competition. So that's my day in pre-production, is really focusing on the creative and figuring out what the episodes are going to look like. And then once the production starts, usually filming is anywhere from 2 weeks for a short show to 2 or 3 months. Say MasterChef runs 2 or 3 months, and we film the show, and we film all the challenges, and we film the eliminations, and we pick a winner, and there's finale, and the confetti falls, and then that show ends, and then my job ends, and then I start on another show and do rinse and repeat all over again. There's a lot of stuff that happens in between there, but that's kind of the gist of it. My job is to storytell, and I'm in charge of a team that comes up the creative to have in the episodes. So yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dylan. Do you guys, why don't I throw one in too, so we are going back and forth, okay? Let me see here. For you, because you were a former 4-H'er, can you tell me a little bit about what you learned in 4-H that's helped you in your career now?
I pledged my head to clear thinking. No, I still remember it. I still remember it. So I think the biggest thing with 4-H that helped me, and I'll never forget it, is I went to, we have do you guys still have the annual conference at UVM every year? No? Well, when they did have that, I remember learning a lot of leadership skills and speaking skills. I remember, you know, I'm what, 5'2" on a good day if I spike my hair. And I remember having to get up and speak I was like the president of the local 4-H club, Trailblazers. And I remember having to speak on behalf to hundreds of kids on behalf of our 4-H club. And no one could see me. And so I just grabbed a chair and I stood on it. And then everyone all of a sudden started paying attention to me. And we're like, oh my God, he's awesome. And I'll never forget that feeling of like, oh wow, like if I just like put myself out there and make myself a little bit vulnerable, I actually can grow physically and mentally and get their attention. I'll never forget kind of the confidence that gave me, and then the leadership skills that followed after that, and being able to speak to people of all ages, because now that's what I do in my job. I manage teams. I need to speak to large number of teams, and I meet new people all the time, all the contestants that come in. So 4-H was a great way to do that. And it was my life for over a decade. So yeah. Excellent. I'll never forget that. Yeah, I was like 12 or 13 years old. I was like, oh, this is what's going to happen. Oh, no, maybe I was a little bit older. Maybe I was like 15. Yeah.
Excellent. That's great.
Yeah.
Let's see. Dylan or Kaylin, if you are interested in asking any questions, that'd be great. Oh, it looks like we have someone else that's joined us. That's wonderful. What we're doing today is just making sure that, you know, we're going through and asking questions of Patrick. who is telling us a little bit about his career. And if you folks feel like you can ask questions, that would be great, because the whole point of informational interviewing is getting a chance to talk to someone who has a career that you might be interested in. And you can find out more about it straight from the person who does that job.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Who are you talking to?
This is Mia.
Hi, Mia.
Hi.
Do you have a question for Patrick?
No, I just got here.
Oh, okay. No problem. Well, thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Why don't I ask one more, and then people kind of can see how it's coming out. Oh, look, there's one. Kaylin asked one.
What has been your, oh no, we got a couple here.
Yeah, we got a couple of them there now. Okay. Well, this one's from Sarah. How did you end in the job that you have now? Do you attribute it to building relationships in your field?
Oh, wow. Great question, Sarah. Okay, so did you attribute to building relationships in your field? Yeah. So I got my job. I moved out to Los Angeles when I was 19, which I will preface by saying that is not for everyone. If you would like to finish college first and then move out, great. Or move out, do college here, and then get into the career. But I knew at a very young age, I wanted to work in television. So I moved out at 19 with my parents' support, and I got into casting. And I was in casting for a couple of years, and then I jumped, once I was on set and I learned all the different roles, then I jumped into to producing ladder, and I've kind of worked my way up there. How I got into casting is as I came out here and I filled out a resume, and I was just kind of like that focused, this is what I want to do. And I put myself in the right places to do that.
What does going into casting mean for those?
Oh, sorry.
Nope.
So I worked for a casting director in the casting department that cast shows, scripted and unscripted shows. So I was an assistant. I started at the bottom, and I think just the sheer drive of knowing that I wanted to work in TV and the passion I had and being around it 24/7 is what drove me to just keep going. I mean, it was hard work, but then people recognize that. And I think, attributing to 4-H too, I mean, the people skills you learn, no one wants to hire somebody that's a Debbie Downer or a sore, attitude. And so if you versus someone else can do the same exact job, except you have a great attitude about everything, you're going to get hired every time. At least I think it goes for most fields, but at least in my field especially, a lot of people can do what I do. It's just a matter of, do you have a great attitude? Are you great to work with? That is really going to help you. And so the people skills that you learn, especially in 4-H, that'll really, really help you out in the job field, whatever you do.
And where you were climbing up from casting and getting through to where you are now, do you attribute that to building relationships in your field?
My job is only about building relationships. It is so true what they say in Hollywood of who you know. It is so true. My job is freelance technically. And so what that means is I go from one job, one show to the next. So I'll be booked on MasterChef from January, and then I am done MasterChef in May. And it is up to me after that show wraps, after it ends in May, to get a new job. So it's all freelance. However, if you do a good job, everyone and your bosses and your executive producers and the owners of the production company and the networks all have other shows lined up. There's always going to be TV to watch, right? So it's the relationships that you build on that show will keep you hired onto other shows. So it is all, never burn a bridge. I don't care how much you hate that person. You come home in private doors and you can vent, but unless they're doing something illegal, then that's a different story. But you never burn a bridge if you can, because you never know what will happen. It's a small town here in Hollywood, as in with any other. If you enter a field, all of a sudden everyone starts to know everybody. So building relationships is really key, starting with like the first job that you have, because then people will talk about you and they'll recommend you. So yeah. Excellent. That is, it's such a cliche in Hollywood, but it's so true. It's so true.
Wonderful. Here's a question from Kaylin. What has been your biggest challenge and how did you overcome it?
Oh man. So along the lines of not burning bridges, as you start to move up in your job, and you're recommended for a lot of different jobs in my world, in the freelance world, your name starts to get out there. So then you start to get offers, and multiple offers that overlap or at the same time. And a big thing you don't want to do is make everyone upset, leave a job that you've already agreed to, finish out that contract to go to something that could be better for you. Biggest challenge for me is not burning bridges when there's better offers that I have, but I'm already on another show. I'm already working on another show. And the biggest thing I need to do is finish that show and not burn that bridge, and make them upset to jump onto another show early, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so there's a lot of shows, a lot of jobs that overlap each other. And my biggest challenge has always been not making everyone mad, because then all of a sudden you won't get hired. So, but it's been tough, but then it slows down the process of climbing up the ladder because you've already locked into this show. So, yeah, I think that's been my biggest challenge. Also, 21 hour workdays sometimes are no joke. So that's been, those are tough. But if you're making TV, at the end of the day, you're like, all right, could be worse. Could be worse. But yeah.
Okay. I see we've got a question from Dylan here. What do you wish that you'd known when you were starting out on this career?
Oh, great question. Oh, I wish I would have known. That craft services, they feed you lunch. It's terrible most of the time. It's free, but it's terrible most of the time. So to be fair, what I do, I didn't know it was even a job when I started. When I started in casting, like growing up in Vermont, in my naive brain, I knew, I was like, oh, there's like a producer, and producers fund everything, right? They like give you a bunch of money for the project, and then the director like directs it, and then the actors kind of act it out. I'm like, oh yeah, that's like the three main ones, and then there's maybe some lighting guys and some audio guys. You come out here, and there are so many other jobs that you could do to make a TV show. I didn't know that there, on average, 100 to 150 people to make one TV show. I don't know if you guys knew. So, and then what I do, the storytelling for unscripted TV and interviewing people to make TV, like, I did not know this was a job. So I wish I did. I wish I knew all the jobs when I was in college for this, but there are so many opportunities in TV that would fit any personality, guaranteed. Yeah.
Excellent. We've got any other questions from the audience coming out? One of the good parts of informational interviewing is that you don't have to have it exactly planned. You can just say, oh, well, here's something I'm interested in from that last conversation.
I'm wondering, you just mentioned unscripted storytelling. Do you have any like blooper reel kind of stories or like juicy stories that wouldn't have showed up on the TV, but that were unscripted and happened and had to be cleaned up?
A lot. I work with Gordon Ramsay. I do all of Gordon Ramsay's shows, and he's notorious for his mouth. Most of the things I won't say here, but overall, like, we clean up Gordon Ramsay all the time. He is amazing and he's so funny, but his sense of humor is very adult as well. So there's that. But I will say, along the lines of MasterChef, I do MasterChef Junior, the cooking show for kids 8 to 12 years old. And we always make a blooper reel out of those kids, because I'll sit them down in the interview, and my job is to like get them to tell the story about the competition, and then a little bit about themselves and why they're cooking what they're cooking. You know, what's their backstory behind this dish. And I would say 9 out of 10 times in an interview, the kids are farting, burping, getting up, running around the interview room. They want snacks. There's a lot of bathroom breaks. And so something that would take 20 minutes takes an hour. And we've quickly realized we need a full interview day instead of half a day to do all the kids. But there's a lot of funny stuff with the kids, 8 to 12 years old, in the cooking show. You change your mindset a lot when you're producing adults to kids. So that's been fun. And then we had, you guys know that kid? He was a YouTube, like, he's the apparently kid. He's like redhead. And he goes like, apparently, I don't know if you guys know him or not. It's like a big like YouTube guy back, it like went viral. Anyway, I was his producer on a couple shows. And if you know this kid, he literally would have, and he would say it right here, dude. I'm not even saying it behind his back. He would have a farting contest with anyone, even if they didn't want to have one. And it, on camera, like mic'd up, he would purposely just like on command fart. And it was the most incredible thing I've ever seen.
So what did you have to do?
How did he not lose any subscribers or followers?
I don't know. He actually went up in popularity. Because you're like, wow, look at this kid.
Because at first I thought you were talking about Markiplier, and then I'm like, yeah, no, that does not sound like Markiplier.
Wait, but do you know Noah Ritter? His name's Noah Ritter.
No.
That's the kid. The video, his YouTube video came out maybe 5 or 6 years ago. It's been a little while now. But if you just Google the apparently kid, it's just this adorable local news lady interviewing him. And it's hilarious. It's really cute. But yeah, we hired him to do a few shows after that. So yeah.
How old were you when you started producing?
Great question. So I was working for a casting. I was in casting for 19 to 21, and then 21 is when I started producing. And I started, the very first job you'll do when you start producing is the title you'll get is either like story assistant, live logger, or you can start getting associate producer credit, depending on the show. And the first job you'll do is you'll sit in the control room with your computer, and you'll type out and log story. You'll time code it, time of day or whatever it says on the tape, and then you'll type in what's happening at that exact moment. So you're pretty much just logging and you're watching TV live because you have 12 monitors, 12 screens, and each screen is a camera, and you are just tracking and logging everything that you see and hear as fast as humanly possible. So if you're a fast typer, it's definitely a great job. And then you're gonna have producers throwing stuff at you to, oh, highlight this, make sure you track this. And this document they use in post-production when they edit it to go back and see, instead of sifting through all the footage, they can just read real quickly and find what they're looking for. But that's the first job you'll do. And that's what I did when I was 21. So now I'm 35, and I've worked my way up to now I'm a co-executive producer, which I am, I guess you could say, number 2 in command. The executive producer is number 1, and they, otherwise known as a showrunner, and they call all the shots from every department. They're the one that, it gets to be, when you get to start getting to that level too, I like to say that the creativity, you have to start to really manage. So there's a lot of fun with creativity, but then you really need to start managing people. And when you run, it's like running a business. You're running a show. So yeah, but that's, I was 21. That's the long of the short.
What college did you have to go to basically become a producer?
Great question. So I actually went to University of Vermont. And then when I moved out to LA, I started taking classes in film and TV at UCLA. And to be fair, yes, college will definitely teach you a lot, and they'll teach you a lot of the business, and they're going to teach you all the equipment that you use. But what I was saying earlier is I didn't know what I do now was a job until I got into the field. And sometimes that'll happen when you go to college and you have an idea, you have a subject that you want to learn more about, and so you get your degree in that. But then when you start getting in that field, you're going to learn maybe that there's 10 other jobs you could do within that field, which is kind of a cool thing to discover. But if you're interested in producing, definitely there are film and TV programs at specific colleges. UVM has a broader one, communications, which is what I was in. But a great school that isn't far, like Emerson in Boston, is an amazing film and TV school. And there's a lot of Emerson kids out here. But there are a lot of big schools. A lot of ones in California have film and TV, but there's a lot of them all over the country that have film and TV programs. Just look for that in the when you're searching for colleges.
I see that you typed something in here about how long you ended up going to school for.
Yeah, so total, it was a long stretch. I did 2 years, and then I started working, and then I did some online classes. But overall, it added up to about 4 years to get your bachelor's degree. So you definitely minimum that, because you never know in this, especially in freelance too, you always want something to fall back on, and a degree always helps. Get your foot in the door over maybe someone who doesn't have a degree. It's kind of like that golden ticket with Willy Wonka. If you guys know Willy Wonka, it will definitely help you get your foot in the door and get you in the chocolate factory. Now, once you're in the factory, that's up to you. Don't eat the blueberries too early. You'll turn into one. You like my analogies? Oh, well, I'm getting claps. I like this.
Excellent. What are some of the big projects that you're working on now, or something that you finished up in the last few months?
Yeah, so I just did, I don't know if you guys are into art or crafting, art competition. There was do you know HBO Max? There was a new show on HBO Max, which is their streaming service, called Craftopia, with Lore DIY. She's a YouTuber. She hosted it. We just finished season 2. Last season was kids. This season is adults. I actually, on Monday, I start back up on MasterChef season 11. We are in the middle of filming when COVID hit back in March. And so we had to pause production. And now we are, 6-7 months later, finishing that same season. And we have 8 more episodes to go, which is super funny because in that time frame, one contestant got pregnant. She's 6 months pregnant, and another one broke her foot. So to go from episode 10 to episode 11 in 1 week, how do you explain all of a sudden someone's pregnant and a broken foot? So this is gonna be really fun to do on Monday. That'll be my job to figure out that, because we're not mentioning COVID at all. Fox does not want us to mention COVID at all. So anyway, that's kind of like my number 1 to-do job on Monday. And then I go on to another HBO show in the same family as Craftopia. It's the cooking version, and it's called Baketopia. And Rosanna Panzino, another YouTuber, is going to be hosting that. So I'm kind of booked out for the rest of the year. Yeah. And the jobs will run from anywhere from 1 month to 5 months, depending on the show. So. I guess another thing I can mention too is I've only talked about kind of what I do when we're filming, but another big part of my job that is something I had to learn when I was out here on the job is I do post-production as well. And I help the editors edit the show. And I do that by also working on a computer system called Avid, which I had to learn out here. They do teach that in college, but I didn't take that class. But Avid is the editing program that all professionals, like most shows that you see on TV, are edited on a program called Avid. So if you ever see a class, if you're interested in what I do, and or interested in editing, you're definitely going to want to take an Avid course to learn what that is. Because a lot of will hire me to do the field. They call it field production and post-production. So they'll hire me to do the field and make the TV show, and then they'll hire me in post on that same TV show to help edit and put it all together.
We make stop motion videos.
Awesome. Do you guys use clay or paper?
We just kind of make it up as we go. So we take one picture and then we like kind of just make it up as we go. And we kind of have a plan, but then we
let's take a dinosaur's legs like that way. And then it goes that way.
Awesome.
We take pictures. We make pictures.
That is a great...
Then we make a movie.
Do you use paper or clay, or what's your medium that you use to make?
We use Legos.
Oh, Legos. Oh, cool.
Yeah, and sometimes like action figures, like Marvel action figures.
Oh, nice. You guys would really like Craftopia then, because we have a lot of stop motion crafters on there. Not that I'm advertising my own show here, but it's something I think he'd be interested in. That's really cool, though. That's a great way to, like a fun way to tell a story visually. And they're probably way better to work for than actual actors. You can tell a Lego to do whatever you want.
What do you think you enjoy the most about the work you do?
I feel I'm a very creative person, and so every day I get to be creative in a way where sometimes it's problem solving, sometimes it's making somebody's day, somebody's week, somebody's year. If a contestant, you know, a special moment we can help create. I also love, I consider myself a people person, and I love every job I meet new people. If nothing else, the contestants, and then getting to tell their story on top of that in a fun, creative way that I've helped come up with. That's awesome. Like, I'm lucky enough to work and do a job that doesn't really feel like work. 21-hour days, yeah, that feels like work. But most of the days, it's really fun. And I get to tap into my creative side that I love, meeting new people, and then coming up with problems to solve, because they happen a lot. I think those three things kind of get me going every day. Yeah. Do I like working with kids? I love working with kids. I was coined back in 2014 as the kid producer. And I don't know if that's because I'm 5'2" or not, and I'm like the same size as kids, but we started on The Biggest Loser. We did a kids special. And then I did 2 seasons of Toy Box. And then MasterChef Junior I've been on forever. Oh, and Little Big Shots. I don't know if you guys have seen that on NBC. Super talented kids. Kids are absolutely amazing to work for, because for me, you never know what they're going to say. I don't know if you've seen kids say the darndest things, but it's so true. And when you put a camera on them, you can't produce the amazing stuff that comes out of their mouth. It just happens. You just put them in fun situations and let the camera roll. And it's so fun. And kids shows feel good, and they're happy. And, you know, most shows should be like that, but some aren't. And I love working on the shows that are feel good and happy and family friendly. And so I love working with kids, because that's the vibe every day at work. It's fun.
What do you think you enjoy the least or was most surprising to you about the role that you're in now? What's like the hardest part, or the part that you don't like as much?
I would say sometimes the really, really, really long hours. Yeah, to get like, not too into it, but you're paid a flat rate. And so you're not paid by the hour, or there is no such thing as overtime. So if you work a 21-hour day, you're paid the same as you work an 8-hour day. So now that's strictly for a producer. If you work in the lighting department, sound department, camera department, pretty much any other department, that's a different story. You're getting overtime. But as a producer, while they do tend to pay pretty well, you also work a lot of long hours. And that's the one thing that I'm like, I wish overtime once in a while would be nice. But I would say that, to be fair, there isn't a lot of things I don't like, but that would be the one thing that I'm like, I like sleep. Yeah.
Where do you think you see yourself? Do you see yourself in the same job in 5 or 10 years? Do you think you might be interested in doing some other kind of job?
My goal is to own my own production company. I love developing new show ideas as well. And that's a thing that is a lot of other colleagues do. And that's where kind of the new show ideas come from, is my world. Look at that. Nice for your stop motion. But yeah, no, I would love to own my own production company one day. Yeah, and sell shows that people want to watch.
Excellent.
Yeah. Is that what you guys use when you make your stop motion?
Yeah, we used the clacker. Well, we haven't used it yet, but
The clapper?
So he got this and this for his birthday. He got the clacker, and he got a tripod.
Nice. Now, do you know why they do that? Do you know why they clap it in front of the monitor? Yeah.
I don't know why. It just looks funny. No.
So what they're doing is they are syncing the audio with the camera recording, and it's making a clap sound. So usually someone would just clap, but then they created that thing to make that clap noise. But that clap, that sound, is you're syncing the video with the audio, so that when you get, because it's recorded separately. A lot of times, maybe when you're making stop motion, the audio and video are recorded the exact same on the same device. But in film or TV production, the camera is just recording the visual, and then the audio, because everyone is mic'd up, hidden under their clothes, is recording separately. So that clapper will sync the visual and the audio together for edit, and it's all for edit in post-production. So that when you see your mouth move, the sound that's coming out should be synced perfectly in edit. They can match up the time code. That makes sense. So anyway, it's just creating a sound to sync the visual and audio together. Yeah, they used to, and that's why they call it the clapper, because they used to just clap to make the sound. But then they made that fancy thing, because then you can see on the front of there, they'll write all the information. Exactly. You'll know the scene, the date, director, producer. That's right. That's you guys. There you go. The clapper. Oh, here we go. From Galen. Do people ever mess up, and do people get frustrated after a while? Oh yeah, all the time. Wait, Kaylin though, but do you mean mess up like an actor or contestant, or do you mean like a producer, like behind the, like what I do? Oh, mess up their lines. Yeah, I mean, so a lot of times, so what I do is unscripted. So there isn't a script, there isn't lines to memorize. However, if I ask them a question about, what do you do for a living? And then they start talking and they're like, oh, you know what? That sounded wrong. Can I start again? 100%, totally. People mess up and they're like, wait, I want to say that again all the time. We'll edit it later. Our whole job is to make them look good, to tell the right story. So we don't want to play anything that's wrong or doesn't look good as well. But yeah, people mess up all the time. People are people. Or they'll get frustrated, sure. And we help them get through it. But that's in any job too, right? But yeah, our whole job as a producer is to make the contestant look good and tell their story. At least on the shows I work for.
Looks like Mia had a question here about the hardest part of your job. Like, what's the trickiest part?
Trickiest part of my job is, I think I had to learn very quickly that to get the job done, sometimes you can't please everyone. You try, but I think the hardest part is, what needs to happen to get the job done. And so that's what needs to happen. And sometimes people need to get their hands dirty or do something they don't want to do. You got to work with them to get through that. That's been really hard from a managerial point of view. The hardest point of view from a storytelling point of view is sometimes the story you want to tell. Everyone has a story, right? I bet you have five different stories that we could tell, whether it's the 4-H story, whether it's the I'm a 8th, 9th, 10th grader story, whether it's the I live in this town in Vermont story, or a family story. A bunch of different angles that we could just focus on one, right? sometimes the hardest part of my job is trying to convince somebody, well, on MasterChef, we only want to tell your 4-H story. We don't really want to tell the story about you going to school and all that. And sometimes people don't like that. They're like, no, I want to tell this story, which eventually will get edited out. But the storytelling part, the hardest part of my job is trying to make sure we're on the same page, telling the right stories. Managerial wise, it's trying to get the job. Trying to get the job can be hard sometimes, and managing people that don't want to do the job can be tricky. Sometimes I'm being very vague, and I apologize for that. It's I can't. There's certain things that I'm probably not allowed to say, but I'm trying to explain it in a way that makes sense. So I apologize for that being vague, maybe. Do you ever get nervous in front of famous people like Gordon Ramsay? I used to, especially Gordon. He's really intimidating, and he's like 6'4", used to be like a semi-pro soccer player, and he's just a huge personality. Yeah, I used to. Now, I feel like I've gotten to the point where I'm like, oh yeah, that's just Gordon Ramsay. Or, I'll bring my mom sometimes to set, and she'll be like, ah, and I'll be reminded that that's a famous person. But yeah, in the very beginning, I was very starstruck by a lot of people I work with. But I'm about to do a show I'm really excited about in December with Peyton Manning. I don't know if you remember him as a quarterback, football player, but yeah. So we'll get starstruck over that. So yeah. What are some famous people that you've met? Oh, wow. Let's see. So other than Gordon Ramsay, I've met the cast of Modern Family. You guys know Modern Family. Let's see. I'm trying to think of all the shows. Nick Lachey hosted a show I did. If you guys know, I may be dating myself, but those are like from boy bands back in the day. Who else? Anthony Anderson, I want to say. He's the lead actor on Blackish. There's a lot. There's a lot even outside of work that just are, we go to the same cafes in Los Angeles, and you're like, oh, hey, that's Orlando Bloom. Look at that. So I think the biggest one that I love, honestly, the most is Gordon Ramsay. Just because I've done all his shows, and he treats everybody with respect and is just an amazing guy to work for. Oh, Kim, yeah, you mentioned that you are not going to discuss COVID on MasterChef, but since we are all going through life changes due to COVID, could you share, how COVID has impacted you? Totally. So, yeah, we are in the middle of filming episode 10 of season 11 of MasterChef, and the head of Fox comes in and says, everyone off the set, you're done. No more work, no more paycheck. And that was indefinitely, and that was March 16th, the day before St. Patrick's Day of this year. So most of my colleagues, most of LA shut down for 4 to 5 months. I got really, really lucky and was only out of work for 1 month. And then a Fox show, I don't know if you guys saw it this year, it's called Celebrity Watch Party. And it literally was, we are watching celebrities watch that week's hit TV shows. I got to produce that from my living room, and I got super, super lucky to do that. I never had to leave my house to be able to produce a show through technology, through Zoom. what we're doing right now through an app on my phone. I literally produced that show from where you're seeing right now. And I got really lucky, but a lot of my colleagues are out of work that are just now getting hiring. So they've been out of work for 6 months. So it's been really hard. I know a lot of my friends and colleagues have moved back to wherever they're from, wherever family is, because rent is not cheap here in LA. So yeah, it's definitely impacted a lot of colleagues here in LA, and how we do, even with the shows that are coming back, how we film it. I just finished the season 2 of Craftopia, and wearing a mask and this for 14 hours a day is very challenging. And then I have a walkie in one ear. I got a PL system headset in the other ear, and there's just a lot of stuff for 12 plus hours a day. It's been challenging. It's not, you can't go up to a crafty table and just get a snack whenever you want. You can't go up and mingle with whoever you want. Sound stages are now divided into zones, and you can only stay in your zone. You can only use a certain bathroom. You are COVID tested 3 times a week. And that's if you're around people who are not wearing, they call it PPE, personal protective equipment. So our cast, anyone who's on camera, isn't wearing masks at all. So that is why it's so strict. If you need to be around the cast, which I do, I need to be all armored up, masked up, and I need to be COVID tested 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And the tests come around 24 to 48 hours, you get your results. And everyone's quarantined, all the cast is quarantined. And then you on your free time, they ask you just to, go home and come to work. So it's, that's how we keep the doors open and keep filming. We have to be really strict with these COVID protocols. So, but yeah, it's definitely changed a lot of how we do things, but I'm really fortunate that I've been able to work this year and that a lot of shows are coming back. So that's good. But scripted world is a different story. You can't, a lot of scripts call for close contact. So unless people are going to quarantine for at least 2 weeks and go in a bubble somewhere to film, a lot of scripted shows have been on pause. So you're going to see over the next 6 months to a year, a lot of movies that were supposed to come out, a lot of things, everything's been pushed, everything's been paused. So you may see, who knows, you may see even more unscripted because we're still going. So I guess it's good for me, but in the scripted world, they're gonna hurt for a little while. So.
This is our sort of call for the last round of questions for Patrick. We're getting close to the time that we're going to be finishing up. Does anybody have some last questions for Patrick? Oh, Kaylin's got one about movies that you've directed. You haven't directed any movies, have you?
Oh, no, I haven't directed any movies. I do more like I do reality television, I guess is what they say. I like to say unscripted. It sounds better, but like when you think reality television, I don't know, you may think Kardashians or something like that, but I don't work on those types of shows. I work on like competition shows. So, and those I've been able to produce, which is a little bit different than directing. Directing, you're directing the cameras. Producing, you're you're making the creative, like you're making hey, you're coming up with the idea of like, this is what I want the contestants to do, or this is the challenge I want them to do, or this is the scene I want them to be a part of. I want them to all go to the park and have a day at the park. And then we will film that, and I will produce the people to, hey, do you mind go talking to your friend about whatever you're doing? Now the director is the one directing the cameras to get the shots for that scene. That's the difference kind of between a producer and a director. I haven't directed any movies or even TV, but I've produced it. So I work closely with the director. We're on the same page. We know the creative. We know what we want to get. And I'm working with the talent, and he's working with the camera operators to get it done, to get the shots.
If or when are you gonna do another one of these like session meetings? These meetings.
Yeah.
Do you mean Patrick? When is Patrick going to do another one?
Yeah.
I know.
You tell me, Molly.
I know. I was like, we have 2 more scheduled for next Thursday and the Thursday afterwards, but they're with other folks. We have an attorney coming next week, a lawyer, and then the week after that, we have a veterinarian who also does animal acupuncture. So that's kind of interesting. That's what we've got going on. We were pretty lucky to get Patrick for this one. We were pretty excited. So we're really glad that he was able to join us.
When can we talk to Patrick next?
I don't know. That's a tricky one. You know, if I don't know the good answer to that one. I don't know when we'll get to have Patrick back, but depending on, you know, maybe we'll get to do it again next year or something like that, be able to have a chance to talk to Patrick. He is pretty fun to talk to. I agree. I like talking to Patrick too.
Thumbs up, buddy.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So as you're working like on set with Gordon Ramsay, do you ever think that Gordon Ramsay is a little too like mean to like the people live on TV? Like it's just a little too much off the top?
Yeah, I used to a little bit, right? You watch him and you're like, wow, he's yelling a lot. Like that seems really mean, right? But I think what happens is they edit out a lot of things of what leads him up to the yelling. So if you watch it live, it's actually pretty warranted. Like some of these people, not to take Gordon Ramsay's side, but some of these people do think, like if Gordon Ramsay tells you to do something 5 times, by the 5th time, even if it's like your mom or dad, right? By the 5th time, they're probably going to raise their voice a little bit, right? So what you see in the edit is you don't see the 4 other times that Gordon Ramsay asked this person to do something. You only see that 5th time when he's yelling because that's entertaining. And so the editors chose to show that. But if you watch it live, you're like, yeah, that person probably deserved that. You know, they're not hearing him the 4 other times. So to answer your question, I think he's way nicer than how sometimes he's edited. I think I'll also say this, in the very beginning of his career, I think he was edited or shown to be a lot meaner than he is because he stood out. He's a character and he's like, oh, Gordon Ramsay, right? Like that's how you remember him. But now, and as he gets older, he doesn't even yell that much anymore. He doesn't need to. People instantly will respect him. The guy's got 36 restaurants around the world, 20-something Michelin stars. Like that alone, his resume, they're like, yeah, I'll listen to Gordon, whatever he says. So he's not just a great TV personality. He actually, walks the walk and is doing it. So, but yeah, in the beginning, I was like, oh, like even me working for him, he's my boss. I'm like, I don't want to make him mad. I don't want him to yell at me. But he never has. And I don't think he will. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah, when I watched some of Gordon Ramsay's shows, at first, like after like a couple times, I thought, oh my God, maybe Gordon Ramsay is related to Simon Cowell from America's Got Talent.
Yeah, maybe they went to the same class.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I know you've got a busy day, Patrick. I know you've got a lot going on. So we really appreciate the time that you're able to share with us today. And thank you so much for being a part of our circle here so that we could learn more about what it is that you do.
Yeah, go 4-H.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for asking the big questions that you asked. We really appreciate it. It's a lot more fun when you guys ask the questions, so we thank you for it.
Appreciate you guys. Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, Dylan, Kaylin, Mia. We got the Pena family over there. Keep making stop motion. That's fun.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much. We're going to have everybody hop off now. And